to Alabama's second loss before November. The only time or the last time that happened was 2007. I saw
in November.
Alabama's lost a couple
It was Nick
games.
Saban's first year, right?
Yeah. First off, you got to give credit to Tennessee. And it's funny, you look at that final score, and one of the things we led the show off with this week was that Tennessee has to be aggressive. And if you're going to go down swinging your sword, trying to make big plays down the field. And they did. I thought Tennessee was as aggressive from a play calling standpoint, and Nico was as aggressive trying to push the ball down the field and running more than he has been the whole season, especially in big games. Now, he ends up 14-27 for 194, a touchdown and interception. I mean, Dylan Sampson goes for $140 on 26 carries, right? And I know the numbers for Nico don't look huge in this offense, but guys, how many wide open guys did he miss down the field? There was, I think, 5 that I counted. 4 of them were touchdowns. One of them would have been close. He hit one. He hit the one to down the sideline late. That was the big throw. And then obviously kind of the lollipop touchdown to Brazil was a really nice throw as well. But Tennessee had to push the ball down the field like that and had to take chances like that to get that run game going like it eventually did. Like I said, Nico had 9 carries for 44 yards, was able to escape, and it was third down. You can't just rely on it always to go great against Alabama down the field and guys to be open when they're supposed to be open. You've got to be able to create at some points. And I thought this game, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't beautiful. Nico made some horrible decisions in the first half. Horrible. But you got away with it because you stayed aggressive and it opened everything else up. And guys, let's just be honest. This Alabama team is just good, right? They're just a little bit better than good on both sides of the ball, I think, overall. It's just the truth.
Man, I had my neighbor Adam ask me this last night, which he's an Illinois fan, so I'm really not sure why I was even hanging out with him. But he said, has Alabama ever lost twice in the same season in the state of Tennessee? Because that's what's happened now with road losses at Vanderbilt and Tennessee. I think we're going to have to fact check that and look that up. Similar to the conversation about Georgia beating Texas without their quarterback playing great. I mean, all things for this game, the conversation has to start with Tennessee's defense. 7 straight games now. Every game this season, they've held their opponents under 20 points. That's truly incredible. And I was telling you guys last week in the keys to victory, it's about how well can Tennessee run the football in Alabama. And watching the game, it didn't really feel like, it felt like a defensive battle, which Blaine, I think you brought up in the week. Like, hey, take the under in this game. It's going to be a defensive battle throughout. Didn't look like one team was really running the ball that well on the other. And then with 6 minutes to go in the game, you look down and Tennessee's rush for 220. Right? 220. And you just chip away. And then the third quarter, Tennessee and Sampson run the football so well in the second half, which is part of, chipping away at these teams. But I'll tell you what, and I don't want to be too hyperbolic here when we talk about Alabama and culture. And I know it's a new regime and a new coach. And I think Kalen DeBoer was a great hire. And obviously I have friends on the staff. But when I'm watching some of these things out on the field with Alabama, when I'm watching 2 wide receivers fake jump shots, when we got a quarterback sneak going right now, when we could easily put 2 tight ends or 2 offensive linemen in there in an era where you can push the quarterback, and we're over faking jump shots on the sideline, and we got 15 penalties for 115 yards. You had the entire length of the field plus another 15 yards in penalties. Like, some of this stuff, I don't know what to make of, guys.
Blaine, me and you grew up, and you being younger than me, you saw it was even more concentrated in your upbringing. Watching Alabama dominate from a personnel standpoint, from a discipline standpoint, and from a culture standpoint. All of those things, to me, from a personnel standpoint, number one, Alabama does not have the personnel are the best personnel in the country anymore. They do not have a monopoly on players. I don't think right now they got a top 5 roster, if we're going to be honest, overall. Number 2, they're still really undisciplined. We saw a little bit of that at the end of the Nick Saban era. The penalties and the turnovers that plagued him at the beginning of the year, that some had thought gotten fixed when going up to Wisconsin. Then you find a way to beat Georgia. And then a culture standpoint, I've never seen an Alabama team that when the moment becomes its biggest has faltered like this lately. Have a chance to drive and beat Vanderbilt. Have a chance to drive and beat Tennessee. Lucky to hold on and beat South Carolina. Give up an onside kick there. Really probably should have gotten beaten that game. this is just a total turning of the page for Alabama right now. Not that they're going to disappear or go to irrelevance, but it's still weird to see them bleed like this, Blaine. You got to give credit to Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, and David brought up some great points. The first thing we do need to bring up if we talk about this football game is Tennessee's defense. I mean, I love the under in the game. I didn't see where all these points were coming from. Tennessee has legit top 5 defense if you look at it from a roster standpoint. And I thought Alabama personnel-wise, you can say what you want. There's NFL guys on that side of the ball. And look, this is the worst I've seen Jalen Milroe in a long time. I mean, 15 penalties. Look, the penalties things were going back to Nick Saban his last couple of years, but they find ways to overcome and win those football games. And right now, Jalen Milroe was just not that guy in this game. And for one reason, why is he throwing it 45 times?
That's what I was going to – that was
why
just
is he
what I was
throwing
about
it
to
45 times? And what do you have, 14 carries or 13 carries, and 6 or 7 of those were rollouts and scrambles? He needs to run the football. That's who he is. You do not need to throw the ball 30-plus times with him to prove a point. We can say what we want, but Jalen Milroe is not going to throw you to a win against defenses like this. The way you beat defenses like this is you have to stretch them out, make them add another hat to the box in the run game.
And then run it right at them.
Yeah, to open up the pass game, the avenues you can do with the quarterback when you utilize his feet, it just opens up the world to you, and I thought they completely missed with that in this game.
David, to that point, didn't this game plan in this game for Alabama feel like last year's game for Alabama against Texas at home? Like it was like Jalen Milroe is going to sit in the pocket and prove to everybody that he's this NFL, just pure passer. Not that they didn't have any quarterback design runs. They did, and Tennessee did a good job of making them, not letting that hit for big, right? There were times they were causing disruptions. They would slant, do some different things up front. But, I mean, Jam Miller, I thought, looked pretty decent. When he was running the ball, I didn't think it was awful. It just seemed that every time Alabama got something going, including in the second half, they would throw it 2-3 times in a row instead of saying, listen, we can get 4, we'll get 4. I love targeting Ryan Williams. I would target Ryan Williams more than if I was the FBI and he was on the top 10 most wanted list. But at some point, the run game was working, and that's just not who Jalen Milroe needs to be, especially on the road in a game like this.
Yeah, well, it's funny you asked me about the Texas game, because when I'm watching this game last night, I'm thinking, to Blaine's point, man, this is the worst that I've seen Jalen Milroe, not just this week, but, last couple of weeks. This is the worst that we've seen him since the beginning of last year. And it was after that Texas game when he really started to figure things out. On the point about the number of throws and the play calling, one positive was I did think they were making a concerted effort to target Ryan Williams early in the game and often, right?
Yeah.
We've been saying that's not really happening at the beginning of the game. It's just like these late plays to him. They were trying to get him the football, which I respect. Look, I guarantee you Nick Sheridan's not sitting back there like, hey, how many times can I throw the football so Jalen Milroe's a first-round pick or something? This is a big game. Everyone's watching like that. He's going to call the plays that give him the best chance to win. Again, I think the entire conversation of this game starts with the Tennessee defense. You're just finding yourself in a situation where nothing's working, so then you're trying a little bit of everything, and things can start to unravel a bit. But to Blaine's point, I do think we're looking at a top 5 defense in the country. You have to say that with Tennessee. They've held every single opponent under 20 points, and we talked about this is an Alabama offense that can score at any moment. They can score a 95-yard touchdown. They can lead a 95-yard drive at any time, and they just weren't able to do that. And hats off to Josh Heupel and everything that this Tennessee team has been able to do on defense. And then to the Nico point, as bad as it was at times, right, when you need him most, slot fade into the end zone, put a dot on him, and win the football game.
Yeah, well, I think we like Nico. I'm still not impressed.
No.
Like I'm not you. I mean, it's the same thing.
But what confidence? Like a big thing is confidence coming out of this game, and he made the last throw, Blaine.
Yeah,
that is the thing. He did make the last throw,
but he's still missing the same throws we've seen him miss the last couple weeks.
He is. But as well as I do, I don't think it's an ability thing. I think it's just he has to throw. He has to get. We say this all the time, Major League Baseball. He needs to have enough at bats. If he gets enough at bats, not that he's going to get a hit every time, but eventually he's going to start hitting them more.
He's the second baseman who can't throw it to first.
Yeah, but he needed that in a big game. Doing it against Kent State, listen, that's great. Yes, it's going to be offensive to Kent State. It's a whole hell of a lot different doing it against Alabama now than it is against Kent State. And you did make the last throw, but if I'm a Georgia fan, Or if I'm a Tennessee fan this morning, I'm waking up, we just won a huge ass game and my quarterback didn't really play that good. So like
and one of them was on the road.
And one of them was on the road. Yeah, it's exactly right. One of them was on the road with Georgia. So I mean, at this point, maybe it is what it is at the quarterback position in this league. But you look at the rest of Bama's schedule here, and I'm going to get back to the chat. You got Missouri at home next weekend. Then you go to LSU. Man, then you get Mercer.
They have a bye week before that, right?
They got a bye week before LSU, and then you got Mercer for a mercy killing, and then you go to Oklahoma, and then you got the Girl Scouts from Auburn last game of the season.
Iron Bowl
rivalry. Keep that one close and lose it at the end.
But to the point on the baseball analogy, so it's like Nico is playing second base and he's overthrowing it to first. But if you put him at right field and the runner's rounding forward, he'll put a dot and you're out.
Yeah, it's not. Jake was saying it's an ability. Exactly.
Not only
an ability thing.
Not only is it not an ability thing, I still think he throws one of the best balls in the country. What really surprising to me is earlier in the season, and take Kent State out of it, we know how bad they are. Take Chattanooga out of it, but even NC State, right, who's not a great football team, but at least there's competent players running around. Even when things were going bad for Nico and you had a couple turnovers in that game, he still looked in control and poised and confident and made things look easy even when there's a couple mistakes. Now, at this point in the season, it's like everything looks hard, even the throws that are good and when things are going well.
Yeah, and he ran it.
40 yards, right?
Yeah, when timely, when he had to, just saying, you know what? Go. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Just go.